Today we're going to talk about area and circumference of circles. Before we get to area or circumference, let's review some parts of a circle. So on our circle, a circle is the set of all points in a plane that are a fixed distance from a given point called the center. So we see the center is this middle point. All right, a line that connects the center to any point on the circle, it's half the diameter. That is our radius, R-A-D-I-U-S. So our radius, you see it goes from the center to any point on the circle, and it's half of the diameter. Now, what is the diameter, you ask? The diameter, D-I-A-M-E-T-E-R, the diameter connects 2 points on the circle and passes through the center. It's the radius times 2. So the diameter goes all the way across the circle. You can see if we just draw a line all the way across, it needs to be straight. That is your diameter. Your circumference is your distance, circumference, spelling it out for you, sounding it out, is the entire distance around the circle. You can think of it as the perimeter of the circle. It's the distance around the circle. And then the area is the number of squared units covered by a shape. So the area is the inside of this circle. How much space is inside this circle? Now let's look at circumference. The circumference, like we just talked about, is the outside edge, the perimeter of a circle. So some formulas you need to know, and you don't have to memorize these, they'll be given on the Georgia milestones, is the circumference is equal to pi times d, which is the diameter. All right, pi is d, pi times d, and d stands for the diameter. Pi is an irrational number that means it goes on and on and on forever. And it's approximated by 3.14, or the fraction 22/7. Now, another way we can calculate the diameter is by using the radius, and we can say 2 pi r. And so that's 2 times pi times the radius. And the reason this works is because we know the radius is half of the diameter. So if we multiply it by 2, that equals the diameter, and again, we still multiply by pi. So let's test this out with a practice problem. A Ferris wheel has a diameter of 56 feet and makes 10 revolutions per ride. How far would someone travel during a ride? And we're going to use 22/7 for pi. So the first thing we need to do is start with a formula. So we need to find the circumference first. Okay? So we have the diameter of 56 feet. So our circumference is going to be equal to C equals 22/7 for pi times 56. Because again, remember we have C equals pi times the diameter. Now, we can cross simplify here. 7 goes into 7 one time, and 7 goes into 56 8 times. This makes it a little bit easier to multiply. So we now have C equals 22 times 8. And when you multiply 22 times 8, you get 176. So the circumference for this Ferris wheel is equal to 176 feet. But we're not finished. Remember, we want to know how long you would travel if you make 10 revolutions per ride. A revolution just means one time around the Ferris wheel. So if we go around 10 times, we're going to multiply our circumference, 176 times 10, and we get that our total distance is 1,760 feet. Okay? Now let's take a look at area. So moving over to area, one thing we want to know is a relationship that we can see. And so we've been doing circumference, and that's the distance around the perimeter of the circle. Now we're going to talk about the inside of the circle. The only formula we need to know, and again this will be given to you, is area is equal to pi times the radius squared, or pi times the radius to the second power. You might sometimes see this as pi times r times r. Okay, so helpful hints, only use the radius, that's the main one. You must find the radius, square it, and then multiply it by pi. So multiply by pi last. And if given the diameter, you have to calculate the radius, aka divide the diameter by 2. So again, let's look at a practice problem. This is going to be a little bit more of application type problem, but it'll be good for us to go through. So 4 circles are drawn in a square with a side length of 5 inches as shown. Find the area of the shaded part of the figure. Now, we already have a step. It says use this idea to help you solve. So from A to B, all right, from A to B, it's 5 inches. We see there are 2 circles side by side, okay? So what we can do is divide 5 by 2 to get the diameter of these 2 circles. So 5 divided by 2 is equal to 1, it's not equal to 1. It is equal to 2.5. So the diameter for each circle, for circle 1, circle 2, circle 3, and circle 4, is 2.5, you can get that down there, 2.5 inches. Okay? Now, what do we know about the radius? To get the radius, you do the diameter divided by 2. And since we're focusing on area, area is equal to pi times the radius to the second power, we have to figure out the radius. We can't use the diameter. So my diameter is 2.5, and that divided by 2 is going to give me a radius of 1.25 inches. Now we can calculate our area. So A is equal to, let's move this up a bit, A is equal to pi times the radius, which is 1.25, to the second power. Okay, let's do some calculations. 1.25 to the second power is equal to 1.5625. And we're going to keep that whole decimal. And now it tells you to use 3.14 for pi. So I'm going to substitute in 3.14. So the area of one circle is equal to 3.14 times 1.5625. And that gives me this long decimal of 4.90625. Now, if we go back and look, we want to find the area of the shaded part of the figure, which is the circles. How many circles do I have? That's right, I have 4. So we have figured out the area of one circle is 4.90625. So this is the area of one circle. Since I have 4, we're going to multiply this by 4 to get our total area. So the area of all 4 circles, 4.90625 times 4, is equal to 19.625 inches. And remember, area is always squared units. Okay? Hopefully we see the connection between finding the diameter and the radius. And we see that we plug in and solve the radius to the second power first, then multiply by pi to get our area. Last thing I want to look at is the connection between the circumference and the diameter. The connection between the circumference and the diameter can be looked at by viewing pi. The circumference and the diameter of any circle have this relationship, and it's a constant ratio of pi to 1. Or since we approximate it, it's approximately 3.14 to 1, meaning the circumference is always about 3 times more, 3.14 times larger than the diameter. And I hope this helps you review your circles and take your notes. Please come in for review sessions or ask me any questions you may have.